Hey everyone, it's the Grumpy Meeple, and I'm back with the start of some more Chronicles of Drunagor coverage. This time I'm actually just going to be playing through the campaign from start to finish, basically, or at least as far as I can get. I thought that the kind of playing through the start here guide, I thought that was a good idea, but it was a little tough to film, and I don't know that I kind of took it on in the kind of the best way possible. I'm still really new to this YouTube thing, and and just doing it for fun. So, I'm learning. But I think that this is going to be a lot more fun, at least for me, because it was actually pretty stressful trying to make sure that everything was on the screen and I was getting the start here guide captured correctly. And now I kind of don't have to worry about that stuff, and I can just play the game and let you see how it plays for real. And so here we go. I've basically got everything set up. I'm going to be playing as two characters here. I'll be playing as Pietro, the human cleric. This miniature right there. Very nice. I have primed the miniatures with Citadel's Gray Seer primer, which is kind of my go-to primer, even though I know it's ridiculously expensive. I just really like the way it looks. And then I'm also still playing as Vorn from the Start Here guide, because I liked him. He's a nice kind of tanky character with a lot of shield based abilities, and this way I only have to learn how to play one new character during the playthrough. I've got my starting cubes gathered up. In case you don't remember, the starting cubes are identified on the initiative card for the characters. So 2 yellow, a blue, a green, and a red for Vorn, who is my defender, and he'll be starting there. And then for Pietro, we've got 2 red, 2 ranged, a blue, which I believe is wisdom, a green for agility, and a yellow for melee. So a little more ranged focused on him. And he will be playing as a support character. I'm using the larger boards I'm kind of using a mix of components here, because these are the new character boards with the old roll boards. And I just kind of like the way they look, and they take up a little less space. It's a little less finicky having cards floating around. And so I decided to go that route. So Pietro is going to be my human cleric. So he's going to be doing a lot of healing and cleansing. He's got some kind of crowd control stuff where he's going to be pushing people and knocking them down. And then he's going to be doing some healing, etc. And then as a support, he's going to have additional heals and buffs to give shields and such, and even some AoE healing, so to heal multiple characters, which is pretty cool. And then Vorn, I'm sticking with the defender role, so he's going to be basically very tanky and trying to absorb damage and shield himself to block damage and such. And then the only other difference with the new roll boards is that you'll see I do have the 2 locked abilities cubed off, so that I make sure that I don't use those. In terms of the playthrough setup, the main thing that I'm going to be doing differently is I'm not going to be using the monster kind of hit point tracker. I'm just going to use some 20-sided dice. There's not going to be any monsters this early on who have more than 20 hit points anyways. And, the dice, they actually, to some extent at least, they're color-coded with the bases anyways. So I think that that'll work fine, and it's just a lot easier to manage instead of just having another giant board out on the table. I've got my player's aid chart here that I printed out. Very nice. And other than that, I think we're pretty much ready to go. It looks like you've got a pretty good view of the table. So let's get going here. And I'm going to do this for real. So I'm going to read the narrative. So if you don't want to hear this, skip to, skip past it. And maybe I'll try to remember what time I stop reading the narrative stuff. So they start off by talking about the game modes. Nothing too interesting there. And so we go straight into the campaign in the first chapter, The Road to Blackriver. All right, it says, the world is in danger. Your journeys have always taken you far and wide, but in recent days you have begun to hear disturbing reports everywhere you travel. Whole forests are haunted by a strange darkness. Entire villages are empty, their inhabitants vanished without a trace, undead wander the land. As the reports become more frequent and frightening, you have a sense of dread and foreboding that you have never experienced before. Determined to uncover whatever lies behind these rumors, you set out for the Iralian forest and the gleaming citadel of Vorn, home to the Church of the Setting Sun, hoping for an audience with the High Priest Loctus. The Church of the Setting Sun has long been a symbol of unity and hope for all of Darren's races. It is part holy order, part site of refuge, and part embassy. The church was founded generations ago when the Alliance of the Mortal Realms was created, and serves as its central meeting place and council. Its main temple is located in the heartland of the Moon Elves, where it can be reached easily from all the realms. But you know that the church has a second veiled purpose beyond strengthening the bonds between the realms. For the church was formed also to keep a watchful eye against the appearance of any new ascended that might become a threat to the peace and safety of the people of Darren. To this end, the High Priest has always relied on adventurers willing to risk themselves to investigate the strange happenings that plague the realms from time to time. Some are lured by the promise of great rewards, others by the thrill of adventure, and still others in pursuit of glory and honor. A few even volunteer from the simple impulse to protect the people of Darren. Whatever motivates you, you decide to head to Vorn. Along the way, you discover more deserted villages, and more than once you must fight off ambushes by horribly warped and twisted undead things. To your surprise, when you arrive in Vorn, you discover that the church has become an armed camp. Squads of adventurers and companies of mercenaries mill about in makeshift camps all around the gleaming spires of the Sunset Shrine. As you approach, you are passed by no less than 3 bands of adventurers set to who knows where in pursuit of some mission or another. You arrive at the gates of the temple and are welcomed by the paladin in charge. She listens patiently to your reports, her expression stony as she receives more ill news, before she assures you that the church has complete faith that the investigating groups will uncover the truth in short order. To your request for an audience with High Priest Loctus, the paladin informs you that it is simply impossible. The High Priest is too busy to meet personally with every volunteer. Nevertheless, your offer of aid is most gladly accepted. The church always has need of brave and seasoned adventurers like yourself, and never more so than today. In fact, there is a task that could use your attention immediately. Not far from here is a small village called Blackriver. Just this morning, we received strange news of sinister happenings in the ancient forest of Dead Eral. It seems that the undead of that benighted place have become active again. If you are willing, the church would benefit mightily if you could gather clues about the happenings in that village. Speak to the quartermaster. He will provide you with supplies for your journey, and you can head out in the morning. At daybreak, you head south towards the land of Elon and the village of Blackriver. The first days of your journey are calm, the roads around Vorn are clear, and you make good time. On the evening of the 5th day, as you pass through a small grove, a cry of despair reaches you. Someone nearby is in need of help. You immediately dismount and follow the sound. Without warning, an arrow whizzes close by and you scramble for shelter behind some trees. There, up ahead among those bushes, a pair of skeletons clad in tattered armor bearing the crest of the human realm of Amira stand guard over a ford crossing a small stream. Behind them you can see a small hut from which cries for help still emerge. The skeletons are armed with old bows of twisted horn, and you fear their arrows more for the disease they may carry than the mastery of their wielders. But you hear another cry from the hut, and you know that this is no time for caution. Charge! Okay, so there's the context for the first mission. It's also the context for the Start Here Guide mission, which is the same mission. Which is, I noted in one of my other videos, kind of a little irritating that they reused the mission, but no big deal. So darkness, so you have some special rules here. Darkness spawning rule, no darkness. There is no rune card at the start of this adventure. Darkness behavior standard. The darkness will grow towards the strongest hero. If the strongest hero is already on top of a darkness tile or terrain, it will grow towards the second strongest hero and so on. If all the heroes are on top of darkness tiles or terrain, skip the spawning, but place the rune on the initiative track as normal. Curse penalties for recalling standard. So this is when you run out of action cubes, you do a recall action. In this adventure, whenever a hero takes a recall action, willingly or not, they gain the standard number of curse cubes, which is 1. So no special rules in this, but that indicates that there would be special rules in other missions, which is pretty cool. And that might lead to more differentiation between a willing recall action and an unwilling recall action. We're not doing a one-shot adventure, and the goal is to explore the area and find the source of the plea for help. Here's the first setup for this adventure. So, you start out, WM means white monster, and what they're referring to there is the color of the card. So, you start out with a white monster, skeleton archer on the rookie side. That's this. He has a green rune and it's got the up arrow on it, meaning that it goes here on the initiative track. And for the second player, you have just basically another skeleton archer rookie. So he has the same initiative card and everything. You just get 2 of them. You place one right in front of the door and another one right next to the darkness. And then our spawn points are at the bottom of the area there. After you finish this setup, you're ready to play this adventure. So we're ready to go. All I need to do is get another skeleton archer. All right. So we've got a yellow. Let's get, I'm going to use a red base for this other one. And this is just going to help me differentiate between them with the die that I'm using to track their health. He's going to go there. He's going to go there. I'm going to make sure that you can even see that. To be honest, it's a little hard to tell. I believe you can. I'll move it down. And then Vorn is going to spawn right here. And we'll put Pietro behind him, basically. Looking at my rule book, just want to make sure that I have everything set up correctly. I've already gotten all their kind of starting gear and everything out. Monster status board, don't need that. Adventure book, monster cards, rune tokens, got those. Okay, yes, I believe we're ready to go. And so I'm really excited about this because it was a little hard to play. It really was a little hard to play through that Start Here guide and try to teach it at the same time. For whatever reason, I find those things hard to play through consistently anyways, and doing it and also trying to stream it was really stressful. So this will be my first time actually playing the game when I'm just having fun. So excited about that. All right. So it's Vorn's turn, and on a hero's turn, they... So first of all, I have a little bit more setup to do because I need to make sure that I'm giving myself all my passives, and I need to set my hit point trackers out. I did forget about that. So... Vorn starts with 12. You can tell which one they start by because it's the dark spot there. Pietro starts with 10. Health. Pietro's got 2 passives. Beacon of Life. Whenever he rolls a 16 or plus, he can heal 2. One thing that's important that is easy to miss is that the range of an ability like this, wherein it says when you roll 16 plus heal 2, that doesn't mean that it just impacts him, to my understanding at least. Basically, the way that they handle it is it has the same range as the cube ability cube color that they're using. So, for instance, for Vorn, he has first aid here, move 3, self, heal 2. So that means that he can only heal himself, even though it's a green ability. But Pietro has Beacon of Life, passive, whenever you roll 16 plus, heal 2. And it doesn't say anything about being limited to self. That means that it can heal the same range that an agility ability can take place. And I believe, yeah, it has unlimited range. Yeah, unlimited range. So he can heal Vorn from across the room if he gets his 16 plus. So I'm going to try really hard to remember that because it's kind of cool and kind of unique where you're kind of passively impacting other heroes. And some of these heroes have like reactive abilities, like Divert, Prevent 3, which, because it's blue, has any range. Again, this is not limited to him or to him being attacked. If Pietro's being attacked, Vorn can use Divert to soak some of his damage because it doesn't say self. That's different than the armor, which you would assume would very much only apply to Vorn because he's the one wearing it, which does say self, prevent 3. So pretty cool actually. But so Pietro, his other ability, whenever a hero ends a movement adjacent to you, they gain shield 1. Okay, that's really interesting. And then Vorn, he's got his toughness, so his hit points go up to 15 actually. And then tactical advantage, whenever he rolls a 16 plus, self shield 2. So Vorn's gonna start us off. And what are we gonna do? He's gonna get in there and just start trying to hit both of these guys basically. So let me get there. The skeletons start with 6 hit points. So we'll get their dice set up. I do this. This isn't specific to Chronicles of Drunagor. I usually track hit points with dice or something like that. Just cuts down on the number of tokens you have to have on the board and bloat, kind of, table bloat. So Vorn's got a couple of abilities that can hit multiple people, and I think he's gonna basically lean into that. So he's going to take his first movement action. He can move 3 spaces. So he's going to move 1, 2, 3. This places him adjacent to both of these skeletons. And then he's going to spend his first action cube on Arcing Swing, which is cleave, which means it's going to hit the people adjacent to him. I need to make sure and see if it doesn't matter in this case, but I assume it only applies kind of in front of him. Attacks up to X enemies who are adjacent to you. They do not have to be adjacent to each other. Okay, so cleave 2. It specifies that this cleaves 2 people or 2 enemies. So he's going to do cleave 2. He's doing an attack. He rolls this die. Just look at the rulebook again. You must make only a single attack roll and apply it to all the characters you're attacking, so you don't roll multiple times. So he's got the Jagged Blade Axe, so he's looking for 7s or better. And if he gets a 16, then he'll proc his tactical advantage. So he rolls a 10. Plus 3 is a 13. So he doesn't get his passive ability, but he does hit. And so he hits both of them, and he does 3 damage to each. So goes down to 3. And red goes down to 3. Because they don't have any kind of, defensive abilities or anything. They just take the hit. So Vorn still has 1 action cube remaining. And he's going to use Whirlwind of Steel, which he's going to cast on himself. He's going to shield 2. So he's going to get 2 shield. Up to 2 targets, adjacent enemies, 1 damage. And a spell like this can't be, if you don't roll for it, it can't miss. So they just go down. So now they're both down to 2. They're also both adjacent to me, which means they're going to have to move on their activation because they can't attack from adjacency like that. It's called being engaged. So that's Vorn's turn. So then we take the initiative tracker and we move it along, and the next person on the initiative tracker is the skeleton archers. So starting with the yellow one, they're going to follow a very basic kind of AI that I'm going to refresh myself on real quick before I go through this. Is it really not on this? Good, that's kind of weird. That's okay. Yeah, they're going to they're going to check to see if it has multiple attacks like cleave or multi-shot. If it does, then it'll seek to reach as many heroes as it can. Second, the monster will target the strongest hero, the hero with more health. And then it'll take its move action, and then it'll attack. So, the skeleton archers have multi-shot 2, which means they can hit 2 people from range 1. And so they are going to try to take advantage of that. So this guy's going to move 1, 2, 3. That's perfect for him. Because range is counting blue cubes, areas. So now he can hit Vorn, and he can hit Pietro. And they don't roll for their attack, they just do their damage. So he's doing range 1, multi-shot 2, poison 1, but only if it does some damage. And it does 3 damage. So Pietro's going to soak it with Endure, and Vorn is going to actually, he'll use his 2 shield to block 2 of the damage. And then, let's see if he has any other means. No, he's going to have to. I was hoping he would have a different, lesser kind of block, but I don't see one. So they both block it, so they don't take any damage from that skeleton archer. And then this skeleton archer is going to activate, and he's basically going to do the exact same thing. He has a movement of 4, so he'll move 1, 2, 3. Movement isn't encumbered by like enemies being nearby or anything like that. And then he has adjacency to him and to him. He's 1 away from both of them, and so he does the exact same thing. And so, and remember, when you're being attacked, what you're using is your reactive abilities. The ones with the little kind of lightning bolt next to them. I don't know if I... Well, this is interesting. So Pietro, he has the same ability on his character card and on his support card, Veil of Light. Up to 2 targets, prevent 2. But the difference is that it takes a blue cube on his character card and any cube on the other. So he's going to use one of those. Yeah. He'll use the blue cube to prevent 2. So now they're each down to only taking 1 damage. But at the moment, they're both taking 1 damage. So I got to see if there's another way to do some... No. You know what? Actually... Yeah. I was hoping that Vorn had a way to prevent, but I don't see it. So you can see there's some synergy between the classes and the characters, because the defender class, so he obviously is supposed to be like a healer type character, and so support makes sense for him. Vorn is obviously a big burly tank, and he has the defender role, and again, he has divert on both in much the same way. So Pietro is currently taking 1 damage, and I don't believe I have any way of mitigating that. But Vorn can mitigate it on himself. And the reason I would consider doing that would just be because I don't want the poison. Yeah. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to spend a yellow cube on divert to prevent 3. Vorn's not going to take any damage this round. Pietro's going to take 1 damage, and he's going to be poisoned. And that's it for the enemy turn. So the way that this thing moves is it comes down the row, and then it goes down, and it comes to Pietro. So right off the bat, Pietro, I hope I'm saying that right. He's poisoned, so he's going to take 1 damage for each poison token he has. So that's going to knock him down to 8. And then he gets to activate. So here's what I'm thinking. Vorn is going to actually finish both these guys off with 1 hit, because he's got Bull Rush. Move 3 up to 2, target adjacent enemies 2 damage. So he's just going to Bull Rush to here and kill both of them because they only have 2 hit points left. And it's a spell, so it can't miss. So Pietro doesn't need to worry about that. What he needs to worry about is just basically cleansing himself and doing anything he can to kind of buff, I think. He's going to use Protective Psalm, move 3, shield 2. And again, that shield doesn't have to go on him, and I'm going to think about who I want that to go on, but first I'm just going to get him kind of moving along the path here. So he's going to move to there, and he's going to shield Vorn, I think. And then he's going to use Battle Focus. Focus 1. Focus gives him a focus. Which actually, I don't actually even know what this, I've never actually used one of those. There's a handy dandy guide to the tokens in the back of the book here. Second to last page. There's your focus tokens. So focus is a resource that you use to power these special abilities here. So Pietro has 1 Purge of the Wicked, which prevents all damage. And then he has 1 that if he spends 3, and it's a reactive ability. And if he spends 3, he can use Overwhelming Presence on up to 3 targets, Intimidate 2, and Slow. And so he is going to gain 1 focus. He cleanses himself with a poison before it does any real damage. And that is the end of Pietro's actions and the end of the round.